Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of Iblis Manifestations podcast. We have made it to episode number 30 now. Who would have thought? I certainly didn't, and I would really like to take a moment to say thank you all for following the podcast thus far. On today's episode, it's my absolute honor to have none other than Mr. Jason Peppiatt. He is the vocalist and frontman for the very well-known and well-respected Australian metal band, Psycroptic. It was a really cool experience to have this conversation with Jason. We talked about a lot of different things. Particularly one thing that stood out to me was that obviously Jason, besides having been the vocalist for Psycroptic for many years and having toured all over the world, he is also a graphic designer. So one of the things that we delved into was the current surge of AI when it comes to the creation of art, and I'm sure that we're going to be seeing more of it in regards to music as well. So this was really the first time we got to delve into that on this podcast, and I think it made for a very important but also interesting conversation. So I look forward to you guys listening to that. As always, thank you very much for giving your time and attention to Iblis Manifestations. Very much appreciated, and I hope that our conversations bring you some value and that you walk away feeling at least somewhat intellectually nourished. So please feel free to share, subscribe to the podcast, and let us know of your thoughts and feedbacks. We very much appreciate it. So now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, allow me to welcome Mr. Jason Peppiatt from Psycroptic to Iblis Manifestations. How are you doing, man? You okay?
Yeah, good. Had a few little health issues, but everything's hopefully on the mend now.
Yeah, what were the health issues? I know you just briefly mentioned something before we went on.
Yeah, so about 5 days ago, I had not 100% sure what it was. It was like maybe a vacant seizure or some sort of cognitive issue, which like basically slowed me right down and experienced a lot of confusion and stuff like that. So something it happened to me once when I was a kid, so it's not like it's a regular thing. So I ended up in the ER getting checked out and stuff, but everything seems like it's fairly good at the moment. So nothing to be too paranoid about. They're unsure because I'm right into long distance running and stuff like that. So there's the potential that maybe I've triggered something by overtraining, poor nutrition, all the rest of that sort of stuff. So any number of things it could have been, but I'm waiting on more test results. So
right, that was
been
going to
an
be
interesting week.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question, if you knew what might have been the cause of something like that.
Yeah. The doctors and stuff are pointing towards some sort of overtraining issue and lack of, I don't know, something with nutrition. Probably maybe it come in last week. So I've actually been training for a long distance half marathon, which is actually tomorrow. And
all right.
So last week I clocked about 85 kilometers in a week, and plus going to work 8 hours a day and probably not eating enough and all the rest of it. And so the doctor said, there's a good chance that something like that has just either triggered something that's might be there that's, sort of sits dormant most of the time, but who knows? Hopefully it's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it's nothing serious, man. I mean, that's some David Goggins shit right there.
Yeah. I don't think I'm a fair way off him, but yeah, like you listen to his podcast and I listened to him on Joe Rogan, like one he did a while ago, and he was talking about when he did like a 100-miler, the first one he did, and he like ended up shitting his pants and like ended up hospitalized and, you know, totally fucking himself up. So sort of hearing that it's happened to other people, I've done a bit of reading up about it and stuff, and it's just kind of like, it's not uncommon for these sort of things. So maybe like I hadn't been doing any long distance running or any running in general for probably about 7 years. And then about 6 months ago, I sort of got right, like I quit smoking and decided, you know, fuck this. I'm 40 years old now. I got to live a better lifestyle, and then got back into fitness and health and stuff. But it's kind of one of those things that I probably maybe went a little bit too hard. Just broke my body and my mind a little bit, maybe.
Sure, I hear you, man. I mean, first of all, congratulations on making those changes and obviously making that decision to go down this way. I think just based on what you mentioned as well, obviously, if you're doing a lot of cardio, and this is just from the very basic information and knowledge that I have on the matter, I think that you lose a lot of electrolytes. When you're doing those long runs, and you need to hydrate. And I think that by hydration, it's not necessarily just drinking water, but you need salt as well, and you need the electrolytes, you need the potassium and magnesium and everything, and all the minerals.
And that's the thing. Like, so I had up till only 2 months ago, I'd been on a vegetarian diet for probably 8 years. I reintroduced fish into my diet and stuff. So I think like I had been supplementing with protein shakes and stuff up till before I started eating fish again. And so I stopped supplementing, and I think the other thing's probably protein deficiency, you know, and it's just like, the list goes on. It's kind of like one of those things that before I got into this, I probably should have got a coach or something like that, or, you know, like looked into someone who could have maybe given me the right sort of info rather than me just going, all right, fuck it, I just need to clock as many kilometers a week as I can and, you know, eat healthier shit, but, you know, not eating the right shit. So yeah, it's been a bit of a wake-up call for me with it, though, at least.
Yeah. I think the thing is as well, when you're so used to being in a band and the conditions of a tour, then the diet is just like, you know, it goes out the window completely.
Exactly.
I like to think of myself as someone who's quite regimented, but even, you know, as the moment I leave my flat to go on the road with my band, it's game over, you know. I mean, I still try and stay disciplined, and I have like my go-tos, but A, it's gonna cost you so much more to eat on the road, and B, the options aren't always great, you know. And sometimes and sometimes you're just gonna end up relying on crap, or you're just not gonna get the proper nutrition that you need. So I can appreciate, you know, having been playing in Psycroptic for so many years and then doing all the tours and stuff. Maybe some of those road habits might have seeped into the day-to-day life.
Yeah, and I mean, I only just got back. Must have been only 3 weeks ago. We did 6 weeks touring in the US as well. So while we were on that tour, we were like 33 shows back to back or something like that. So it was an intense schedule to start with. Yeah. And I mean, we hadn't been on tour in 3 years now with all the pandemic shit and all that going on. So we jumped straight into a big one. You know, we did a couple of little weekend shows here and there, and then it was kind of like, all right, fuck it, let's just go out to the States and see what happens. And so, you know, that was a really, you know, intense tour, and plus we were all like working out hard on that. You know, we're hitting the gym every day. I'm still like running 10 kilometers a day, and then, you know, we run with minimal crew with Psycroptic, so we're doing everything from loading in to selling the merch to playing the shows to the pack down, setting up lights, all that stuff. So you're pretty much you're going the whole time you're awake. From basically the minute you wake up, we'd be in the gym. We'd stay in the gym till the very last minute, then we go to the show. You'd be working for, as you probably know, sometimes up to like 12 hours a day. And then you go to bed. So it's kind of like, it's a pretty intense lifestyle. It's not it's not always the glorious party life that everyone thinks. So.
No, but I think that's what makes it actually more special. Like, I really appreciate hearing that, and how you guys would still give time to the gym and things like that. Because for me, I actually, not to sound like, like the most boring person on the planet, but I actually find more excitement now in just almost like the military approach to touring, where so you got the strict schedule, got to be doing this, and then you wake up, do this. We have to go from here to there at this time. Any later, you're getting left behind. Fuck you, So it's like that's I like that a bit more than just going out for having fun,
Yeah, I mean, and that's very much how we run. Everything's like a really tight ship, because for us coming from where we do, we're 2 members in Tasmania, which is basically the bottom of the world.
Yeah.
And then, Dave, our drummer's from Melbourne. So just to get us to the States and to get the visas and all the paperwork done that we need, the expense is so fucking high, So we're kind of like, all right, well, if we want to go home and have enough money to pay the bills and stuff like that, we got to do everything ourselves. So it's just kind of like, fuck it, everything's, like you say, it's a militant schedule we run on. And so we're trying to run it so there's not, as much as we'd love to have days off and go touristing and stuff like that, it's like we just don't have the time and we don't have the money. So it's kind of like, if we're going to the States for 6 weeks, we're going to give ourselves, obviously the few days we need to get everything set up, to pick up all the merch, the instruments set up and stuff at the beginning of a tour. But then when we start that tour, it's like fucking no days off if we can avoid it, Unless I think we had maybe 1 or 2 travel days on that last tour where it was literally like we finished a show. As soon as the trailer was locked, we were driving and we were only stopping for fuel and food, basically. So we still.
You said if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
So you would prefer to avoid days off on tour, presumably because it's costing you to be on the road and to also be away from home, correct?
Exactly. I got 2 kids, wife. So, being away from them for too long, it's, it gets hard on the wife, and got a business that I run as well. So, and so do the other guys, like Joe, guitarist, he's got a studio. Dave's got a big online merchandise company. So we're kind of like, we have to try and balance it, so we're kind of like, fuck. We ain't got time to fuck around when we're on the road. So, yeah.
For sure, man. No, I can appreciate that completely. And I was smiling a moment ago because when you were talking about how difficult it is to get all of you together, from obviously you guys in Tasmania and then Dave in Melbourne, I'm smiling because it reminded me of the YouTube comments I saw on one of your live videos, which said, and I might be paraphrasing here, but it said something like, bands this good shouldn't be allowed to be in Australia.
That's great. Funny.
Yeah.
Well, we got one of us is our bass player, Todd. He's American. He still lives in New Jersey. Yeah. So, we got a little bit of the constituent over the other side.
That's cool. Well, listen, obviously, I'm very grateful to actually have you on the show. And I know you said that you were listening to the podcast, but let me tell you of how I actually discovered Psycroptic, which is, I think...
I'd love to hear it.
Well,
especially knowing a bit about your background from listening to the podcast as well.
Yes. Well, you were actually one of the, I'm going to say, how old was I? I think I was around either 14 or 15 years old, right?
Oh, wow.
So, I think, I think this was, I'm trying to remember the exact year, man. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, so I was around 14 years old, I think, maybe 15. And obviously in Iran, which is obviously where I come from, you cannot have access to any kind of TV stations or anything. You know, we only have 5 different TV stations in the country, you know, and then like most of them is just propaganda shit. And then like Channel 3 is usually the one that's the most entertainment based. And then they show the most sports and these kind of things, you know, and I think this Channel 5 as well, they sometimes have these morning shows and bullshit. But yeah, so as you can imagine, you know, in an Islamic Republic, it's very hard to get anything that's beyond the veil. I guess, no pun intended. Yeah, that's right. You know, which is, of course, you know, that's its own thing. It's very sad. It's not quite bad as North Korea, but, you know, it's probably like right next to it. And I think... So for us to have access to other kinds of culture and films and things like that, a lot of the country, we have access to satellite dishes, right?
Okay.
These satellite dishes are not legal at all, but everyone has them. You know, it's like I made a comparison to our mutual friend Jackie from Into the Necrosphere. I said to him, the satellite dishes are kind of like weed in the UK. Everyone has them, but it's just not legal.
Yeah,
you know?
No one gets in trouble for it, though. No one gets caught.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, I mean, people do get in trouble for it, but it's like if the whole population has it, what are you going to do? You know, but the thing is that obviously we had just got an updated one where we could actually watch more channels internationally. And me being me, I had surfed through every single one of them to try and find one that possibly had a metal program. And I did actually find one by accident, right? So this was, I think, one night, I think it was like the first time I actually found that channel. And we had this thing of what, like, you could record from the satellite, from the receiver. You could record onto like a hard drive or like a memory stick or something. And then, you know, it was very like advanced new shit at the time. And so this was sometime, I think maybe at around 2 a.m. when I had school the next day. And I see the video for Initiate come on.
Oh.
And and I wish I could tell you what channel this was. I do not remember. I just remember it had an orange logo on the side of it. And out of all of the bands that they showed, when that video came on, I was like, holy shit, this band sounds fucking killer, you know? So obviously when your name pops up at the end of the video, so I write that down, and then later I went and I basically like paid someone to download your music for me, because our internet speed was dial-up, which was like 3 kilobytes per second, sometimes 2 kilobytes. And I mean, I still try to like stay up at night and download albums at times just to have access to them, but it was very difficult, like almost impossible. Like you'd spend hours just downloading one song. And eventually I managed to get hold of Observant in a digital format, and then I was just like, fuck, this is really great stuff. And I was actually like practicing some of those songs back then.
Oh, wow.
Trying to anyway. So that was my first impression of Psycroptic at age 14. So it's cool to be talking to you now.
Wow, that's fucking sick to hear. So I always love hearing these stories. I mean, now that, I mean, I've been with the band for like 19 years or something like that. Band's been going for since 99, so like 23, 24 years sort of thing. Yeah. Starting to hear like we're getting to the point where we're hearing stories from people going, oh, fuck, I discovered you guys, back when Symbols of Failure came out when I was 13 years old or something like that. And, it's got to the point, I guess we're probably turning to the point where we're an old school band now or like a classic band, but it's cool hearing those stories, especially from like younger bands and those guys saying, fuck, you guys inspired me to get into this, 20 years ago or whatever. You think, fuck, that's cool to hear.
I think one of the things as well. Sorry, man, carry on.
Yeah, you're right. You go. But
I was just going to say that one of the things as well is just the originality of the sound as well. I think that on the surface, a lot of people, I know this is probably an ad nauseum conversation for you, but everyone always says like puts you in the tech death category or whatever. But it's just like you guys have so much more originality to the sound and the way that you do the vocals. You've got your own unique style, which obviously you've also reinvented a lot throughout the years as well. And then there's the way... Joe's guitar playing is just like, it's almost like a percussive symphony of like Eastern melodies.
He's got a very unique style. Like I always say this in all like chats I have with people about it. I feel so, whoa, you there?
Yeah, man.
I don't know what's just happened to my screen.
You just gone a bit darker.
Yeah. I think my screen just went to sleep or something. Sorry about that.
No, that's all good. Like you were saying about Joe,
like Joe's like, he's such an individual style of player, and just the creativity and stuff that he has. It's phenomenal, and I've always felt so lucky to play in a band with someone that's just that talented as a player, but also a composer and a producer. He's like the whole package, and it's just like, fuck. Sometimes, when I start, we're so deep into our career now. When he was sending me demos for the Divine Council album that we've just released, and I just think, checking it out, I'm thinking, fuck, we're this deep into our career, we're not kids, it's not fresh and all the rest of it, but just the songs that he comes up with, it's just like, how the fuck are you still putting this much quality out? It's not like, I listen to it, it's like, it's not a guy that's just going through the motions still. And I think having him being the way he is, it really pushes the rest of us to really dig deep and try to still innovate, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you also mentioned him as a composer, and I think he's fucking really good. Even like with the newer stuff, you got the song, is it Exitus? And man, like super cool. And just even with like some other songs in the past as well, like Echoes to Come, that whole melodic section in the middle, where it just like fully like, that's like, I remember like listening to that for the first time, I think when it came out, and was it 2015, I think?
Yeah, it would have been somewhere around there. 2014, 2015.
It was for your self-titled album, wasn't it? Yeah, so I think 2015. I remember when that came out, listening to it and being like, "Fuck, that's a powerful moment, man." But this is exactly the point of how I think the music of Psycroptic very much surpasses any kind of genre limitations. You kind of have your own sound, which you have been consistent with, but also it's always evolved in a great way as well. Even just going from Observant to Inherited Repression, you've got this massive leap in songwriting and production and performance, and Observant was already like a really cool album, because that was obviously the first one that I heard, because I'm 28 years old. I just turned 28 on this Tuesday, so
happy birthday.
Thank you very much. And so I think it'll have probably been, I'm going to say 2008 or 9 when I actually heard of Initiate, and then went and actually got hold of the album. But this is another thing I wanted to ask you as well, because I think about this a lot, is that when you're in a band, yes, it can very much be an industry-driven kind of an entity. And there's obviously the business aspect to it, and you got to work hard. But a lot of times the rewards, or rather even the effects that you will have on people, are things that, for the most part, you might not even ever get to see unless confronted through conversations like this, or people come up to you at shows and whatnot. So how do you deal with that? Because obviously you've all invested a huge amount of money into the band. One of the things that really stuck with me from watching one of your older interviews years ago, I remember you saying something along the lines of, it was either yourself or Joe, where you said you've invested so much money into the band now that it's almost like too late to step away from it, or something like that. Something along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we were a band, obviously, as I was saying earlier, the expense that came with us touring was just phenomenal. So, I mean, we're one of the most isolated parts of Australia. Australia is a very isolated, country from your major markets being Europe, the UK, the US. So for us just to leave our island it was so expensive, and I think it was one of those things that we were all driven, and we all felt that we could really make something of what we had, and we believed very deeply in what we were doing. So it was just one of those things that, like, we could go out there, we could hit the road hard. I mean, there was personal investment from all of us, but then there was also the fact that some years we'd be touring for 4 to 6 months of the year, and none of us would take a single cent, because if we were lucky, we'd cover our costs and maybe make enough to go hit the studio and stuff like that. So, and it did get to the point where it's like, fuck, you end up so, financially, personally, time, sacrifice invested in what you do. It's just kind of like, I just can't quit now. I can't bail out of this. It's been a lifelong endeavor for us. Like, I'm 40 now, and I'm nearly at the age where I've done it for half my life now, nearly. And it's just like, fuck, I'm not, I'm not ready to tap out yet.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful to hear, man. That's actually the main point from that, is how good it is that you guys are still going and still kicking ass and still releasing innovative, killer music after all this time. It's like you never stopped growing, and I like that a lot.
And I think another thing with us, I mean, we've never been the biggest band out there. We've had a lot of success, and especially as far as I'm concerned, the fact that we can go to most parts of the globe and there's at least a handful of people that give a fuck enough to come and see us play. I mean, that in itself, that's a lot of success as far as I'm concerned. But we've never been a big money-making entity or something like that. So we've never been, the way we write our music's never been driven financially, It's not like we're thinking, we need to sound like this, or this is where the trends are going with metal and stuff. We need to keep up with it, and all the rest. We're like, fuck that. We do what we do. And if people come along for the ride, great. If we lose fans along the way, or if they drop off from what we're doing now and they get stuck on an album from 10 years ago, so be it. It's the band. I think more for us, it's about personal satisfaction as artists than anything.
I can respect that completely. This is actually, I think that should only be the standard for actually wanting to play in a metal band as well, I think. And it's good to see when it's taken seriously enough to be done in such a manner and mindset. And this is the thing I was trying to get to as well, was obviously you're investing all of this time and energy and focus into just performing and touring and being able to bring these songs out there to people. But also, this is why I was saying that the rewards aren't always monetary. The reward is sometimes just that temperature in the room when you see a mosh pit break out of nowhere and then everyone gets going, and it's just the dopamine that you get from just watching that happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that's always been a really big thing for me. Like this US tour we just did, I mean, some of the shows they were routing dates essentially. You know, we knew on a Tuesday night in some small town in the middle of nowhere that's on the way to the next big show. You know that we're not going to get probably more than 20 or 30 people there. But that's okay. It's like, you know, and you do get some people that are like, oh, you know, fuck it, there's no one here. Let's basically just phone it in, whatever. The way I look at it is, all right, there's 20 people here. So what? We've spent a whole day setting this shit up. I'm going to get out there. And it doesn't matter if it's 20 people or 20,000 people. They're going to get the same quality of show. Sometimes even if there's 20 people there, and this is what I said to Todd, our bass player, a few times, I'm like, dude, there's 20 people here. We have to go harder because I want every one of these 20 people in here to go back and tell their mates that they're fucking idiots for not showing up because this was the best band they've ever seen. You know, and that, you know, I just want to light the room up. I want to share a moment with everybody in that fucking room if I can, you know, make eye contact and just... I don't know, just to feel the energy with them, essentially.
I love that thinking, man, and I tell you why I think that. First of all, I think it's great. You know, I think just from a work ethic perspective, that's very respectful of obviously the audience, but more importantly, your craft and yourself, because that shows that you take yourself seriously. And,
I love what I do.
yeah. And by seriously, I mean that in the best way possible, because it means that I think it goes back to the point of how you were saying that you guys will do what you want to do. And if people like it, great. If they don't, you know, then that's fine. You're still going to do things the way you want to do it, which might be a bit of an ad nauseum on the podcast, but I always say that's the way metal should be performed. And I really appreciate hearing that. And another thing is as well, and this is maybe more to my line of thinking as well, because of my background in Iran and what it was actually like to be performing a show, because you cannot perform shows over there. And it's an illegal thing, and you can get into a lot of trouble. I've had friends who were fucking pepper sprayed, had their hairs cut, their instruments smashed to pieces just to be able to play shows. And I myself, you know, I got lucky. You know, we did a couple of underground shows, and I talked about one of them on the Metallica podcast for the Black Album thing, but it's like basically like the kids set the room on fire, and then we all had to evacuate, and you know, all this crazy shit. And the reason why I bring this up is you never know, at least for me, when it comes to live shows, I think that every show could be my last. You know, and you could take this from the perspective of as if you're literally in a country where you could get fucked up at a gig, or you can just even take a look at it from like a human perspective of life's short. You never know. You never know when's going to be your last gig. You never know what's going to be your last day alive. And all these things, you know, without getting too deep, but that means that you have the opportunity to go and do the thing that you want to do. So whether, like you said, it's 20 people or 20,000 people, that's your opportunity. That's your almost, I look at it as a throne. It's like that's a throne waiting for you to go and take. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing I always find. Like I never take for granted that I've got an audience in front of me, you know. I mean, people have made the effort, they've spent the money, they've driven to the show to come and see you play, and it's just like they came because they want that moment of connection with the band. I mean, if they didn't want that, they could just listen to it at home on the CD. So I think they've made some effort to come out. I'm going to match that and fucking, you know, let's just light it up, you know. And I love that, you know? And that's what I love about the guys I play with. We've all got the same attitude towards it, you know. It's like the band's never been about finances for us. It's always been about what we get out of it on a personal level as artists. And it's just, I mean, it's fucking awesome. It's an awesome feeling, especially, you know, I mean, you play shows as well. I mean, you know, when you get that room and it's just, you know, just might be 50 people packed in a small room. They're right in your face. It's just the fucking energy that's created in there. It's just, there's nothing like it, you know. And, you know, and like I always say this as well, like we all of us in Psycroptic, we can play in front of 20,000 people at a festival, and it's great, but you're outdoors, there's a barrier that's 5 meters from you, and that's where the crowd starts. The stage is high, so there's not quite that same connection as what there is in a small, you know, oversold club with a stage that's, you know, this high off the ground, and there's no barrier. The front row is like right here in your face. Like nothing compares to it.
Yeah, man. I think it's a very good point, because I think when it's the smaller rooms, like I'm kind of briefly touched upon earlier, it's the temperature that you feel, and you feel it rising and rising, you know, as like this tension in the air, and you can really like, you could almost like extract that substance of the ether, you know, of that feeling, and you keep feeding the audience and they keep feeding you back, and that's a magic that happens, right?
Yeah. And there's like that whole thing of just that like moment where you lose yourself. You know, it's you're not thinking about what you're singing, what your voice sounds like, that you're in time, that you're whatever, or your body movements and stuff. It just happens, you know. You're just channeling through that energy. Like I can watch back videos sometimes of shows we do where the shows are just fucking wild, and, you know, the energy there. And I look at it, the way my body's moving, I'm thinking, Jesus, what the fuck am I doing there? But, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I look like a fucking idiot at that moment, because it's like, it's just what I was feeling at the time.
No, but it's also how energy travels through your body as well. And this is
exactly. And it just takes over you, and it's just an amazing thing.
I think there's a very primal aspect that comes into play when it comes to these shows. I think that, the genre of metal as we know it might only be 52 years old now or something. But the feeling that gives birth to metal is ancient, and the feeling that occurs when you're performing these live shows, that ritualistic tribal feeling where everyone just loses their fucking minds, that everyone moves in unison, and there's this almost sense of violence, but then also a sense of camaraderie. It's a very that's a very ancient thing, I think. Yeah,
and that's one feeling that, or like one thing with metal that I absolutely love it. You know, the mosh pit can be going fucking crazy, and you think, oh my God, someone is gonna get fucked up here. Every now and again they do, but the person that goes down and eats shit, you know, you look out there and there's 5 people, they're picking them up, making sure they're okay, ushering them out to the back of the room or whatever, and then it keeps moving, and it's just like, you know, it's just insane to see. And like my dad, he comes out and watches our shows when we played down here in Tasmania at our hometown, that's what like people say to him, how do you go there with all the metalheads? They look like they're a bunch of fucking psychos. And my dad's like, they're the best people you could ever meet. And my dad's like 70 years old, and he's just like,
that's cool.
They're super nice. Yeah, the mosh pits look psycho, but no one gets hurt. There's no fights. Everybody's friends. You see people laughing, smiling, shaking hands, but it's just this fucking insane genre of music. And I think that's what keeps people like us sane.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got that out there, but you've got the, like you say, the camaraderie and stuff like that. And I mean, like back to the thing of the camaraderie thing, like the amount of tours I've been on over the last 18 years or whatever, where you can be on a bus with 20 people that you've never met before, but within 2 days, you just connect. I mean, I think the people that are drawn to metal as such, they're all cut from the same cloth, essentially. It doesn't matter your background, where you're from, anything like that. You come together, people have got that certain way of thinking, that certain way of conducting themselves. And, within a couple of days of being on tour with all these random strangers, you're best friends with them like you've known them for the last 20 years, And there's that element. And then a lot of these guys, like I hadn't seen a lot of friends from the road for like 5-10 years that I just saw on this US tour, but they'd come out, they'd shake hands, and you'd be chatting to them like you saw them yesterday. There's that whole, I don't know, it might sound cheesy or cliche, but it's that whole brotherhood of it that I think it keeps people tied in for life almost.
Oh, of course, it is that. I think it is a brotherhood, essentially. And I mean, I'm with you, man, because this is actually something I take quite seriously as well, because I think that the connections and the bonds that you make, especially on the road, I feel like you can't really replace that. You would rarely ever meet someone at an office job and have that kind of connection with them,
Definitely not.
Yeah, because you're in these kind of primal conditions. Yes, obviously you're going to have a bus, obviously, and that is if the band's made it big enough, which of course you guys have, which is fantastic. But it's like, even then, that's still an electrical vehicle, and then there's like the AC on in there or whatever. There's all these things. Yeah, you still can't shit on the bus, but, that's still...
That is a big thing.
Yeah.
Hang on, just to get this text, man. Oh, it's my son's been silly at the door.
All right. That's great.
He's trying to make me laugh.
Just as I'm talking about shitting on the bus, so the very appropriate timing. But the thing...
He hears it all.
All right, that's good, man. The thing I was saying is that regardless of these sort of accessibilities that we have to actually make the shows happen, because maybe I'm an overthinker, but sometimes I even think that, you wouldn't have metal without electricity, so it's like I think of these things, but as far as the human psyche is concerned, I think that it does tap into a primal part of us, that when you're on the road with all your brothers and everyone who's involved in this mission, it's almost the same as, I guess, in a sense, I can see that there might be some of the mentality of, I don't know, I guess, Roman legions moving together to go to war and to conquer.
Yeah. And you end up in this like little almost bubble when you're on a tour where you just, I don't know, it's fucking hard to describe. Like the outside world almost doesn't even matter to you. You're in this bubble, and your job is to just go and do the shows, put on the greatest fucking show you can, and connect with as many people and like talk to fans, fucking sell t-shirts, and you do it day in, day out. It's like that militant routine like we were talking about before, but it's just... I don't know. You're just stripping shit so back. You're doing your job, which is the show, and the things that go with that. Find food, get sleep, and that sort of thing. I don't know. It's this just weird experience that you have, and people are either drawn to it and they love it, and their life is like what we are, or they go out on tour and they fucking hate it.
Yeah,
and
you
You do see that with some people, and yeah, and it's not, and it's definitely not for everyone. It's definitely for a certain type of person, I think. But I think when you are that type of person, there's something fucking magical about it.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. So, Jason, one thing that obviously I also wanted to ask you about as well is the new album, the Divine Council. So, what can you tell me about this? I fucking love the artwork, by the way. I think it was quite different to some of your other releases, but I just love that style.
Yeah.
I think it suits the at least the sonic perspective of the album as well.
I mean, we've always taken the approach with the artwork and stuff. We generally will select an artist that we're really digging their shit at the time. We'll send them songs, like the recordings of the songs, lyrics, all the rest, and we do not give them any guidelines. We say, summon what you think, and we've never had anything we've been disappointed with. So we sort of believe in giving the artist, whoever's going to be putting the visual to the album, giving them full creative control of it. And I don't know, we always think it's yielded fucking amazing results. And it means that every album's really different with what we get as well, because it's conjured up by, the person who we've commissioned to do the work, which, I mean, it's awesome. I mean, I do a lot of digital art myself. And I know I used to take on commissions to do album covers for people. And when I'd be given too much guidelines as to what people wanted, I fucking hated doing it. It was never my best work. So I look at it from the same point of view, when we commission someone to do our stuff.
I think that's very wise, actually, because, at the end of the day, yes, you can have an idea of what it is that you might want, but also, I mean, this is one approach that I've started to take with my own stuff as well, because I've listened to people talking about this, and it's that at the end of the day, yes, you're the musician, the songwriter, the creative force and everything, but if a person is, say, for example, a graphic designer or an artist, that's their job to do that. So chances are they know more about that than you do. So
exactly,
maybe just leave them to it sometimes.
Yeah, and we're totally of that opinion. I mean, people have said to me with me being an artist, they're like, how come you don't do, album covers for Psycroptic? And I find it too hard to put a visual to my own writing. I did it with when we did the Watcher of All EP, I did a design for each song for a t-shirt design for the pre-order, and I found it to be the hardest fucking thing ever. And I don't think I ever want to do that again. So interesting. But I mean, and we look at the fact that we're commissioning someone because we love what they do. Why the fuck are we gonna restrain them by telling them how we want it to be, as such? I don't know, it's a weird thing, but I think definitely we get the best results the way we do it, or we always get a result that we're happy with. We don't ever have to fuck with it. We don't have to tell the artist no, whatever. It comes back amazing every time, and it's always so different to the last album that we've done. And I think that's what we like about it so much as well.
Yeah, I think it's really cool, and it feels like it matches the progression in the sound and the songwriting as well.
Yeah, I mean, the album we did, I think that the artwork that I suppose resonated with me the most was when we did As the Kingdom Drowns, our previous album. Mm-hmm, yeah. The artwork for that, when I look at that artwork, and I think about the ideas and the way that the album sounds and the songs and stuff, it's just like that piece of artwork, I feel, sums it up fucking perfectly. And I feel like with this latest one too, it does as well. But I think with As the Kingdom Drowns, it's like, fuck that. that guy just hit the absolute jackpot with the piece he did for us there.
Yeah. No, it's very cool, man. What can you, obviously being the vocalist of the band and your participation in this record, what can you tell me about maybe some of the lyrics? I mean, first of all, the album itself is called Divine Counsel. Sounds great.
Yeah.
I recommend everyone to check it out. As I've said before, you guys are one of the only bands still within that, I guess, for lack of a better term, modern realm, which I still listen to. You know, like I don't.
Yeah.
My death metal, I'm an old school guy. You know, there's
we're very much the same as well.
yeah. There's a line between, I guess, 1987 and then that sort of ended in 1991 or 92. That's my go-to usually. But when it comes to, I mean, I guess what even is, it's not even newer bands, but like bands post 2000s bands, I guess. I mean, Psycroptic is still, I guess, formed in the 90s, but for me, you're one of the few that I still listen to, alongside maybe, I would say, Nile and possibly just Hate Eternal. But I think that's kind of it. And Immolation. I like Immolation a lot as well. But even then... Oh, fuck yeah, I love Immolation. But even then, Psycroptic is still very different, even to all of those other bands that I just mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. We're not so much of a traditional death metal band, I suppose. But with us, I mean, we're a big fucking melting pot. I mean, me and Dave, we're both big black metal fans. You know, bands like Marduk and all the, you know, original Scandinavian stuff. And I've been getting into a lot of newer stuff like you guys, Panzerfaust, all that sort of stuff as well lately.
Cool, man.
So I guess there's kind of, with some of our stuff, there's that darker edge creeping into it. And I think that's maybe what sort of draws a few different people in with it. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. You look at when we're on tour, all the T-shirts we wear, it's all Emperor, Marduk, all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
but I think that makes it even better because then you've got all these different sources of, I guess, inspiration or even just stuff that you enjoy. But then what you make just has its own character, and I think that's the best way. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of like old thrash and stuff. Joe's big on his old thrash, and I think that's so many influences drawn into it. But like lyrically and stuff, I think I don't try to take, you know, just your stereotypical, you know, approach to what a lot of metal vocalists do, where it's like gore, horror, Satan. Not that I've got any problem with any of that sort of stuff, but I try to take a bit more of a different approach with my lyrics and try to make it a bit more thought-provoking, a bit more, not so political, but I suppose just my views on the way the world is these days. You know, people spending too much time on social media and just fucking rotting their brains out rather than getting out in nature and, you know, and that sort of stuff. But it's all, I suppose, spun in my own way where it's not too descriptive so that people can take from it the meaning that they see relevant, I suppose.
Well, actually, this was going to be the thing that I was going to ask you about, was the lyrics of the album, and you perfectly alluded to it, because the album opens with Rend, Asunder, and the very first 4 lines are, our world is torn, locked in our prisons, uncertainty of this new life, no end in sight. What can you tell me? What's going through your mind?
That was so. I mean, the album was written obviously while COVID was going on. Everyone knows obviously about how fucked up a lot of Australia was with that.
Sure,
we weren't so much fucked up with it down here in Tasmania, but Dave, our drummer in Melbourne, we're just hearing crazy shit from him. So I guess that opening track was definitely just directly inspired by the things I was seeing on the news at the time, what I was hearing from friends in Melbourne that were fucking locked up indefinitely, you know, and that whole thing of, you know, there was just no end to it, essentially. So that song very much sort of going down the line of that. And I guess a lot of my stuff has always sort of, I suppose, been taken or inspired at least by what I'm seeing going on in the world at the time.
Yeah, and I think Australia was actually quite extreme, and the way
it was fucking crazy, really. I mean, so where we are in Tasmania, we had like a loose lockdown, I think, for about 6 weeks, but we're on an island, so we've got that unique position where they just closed the island up. You couldn't leave, people couldn't come in, but it was like almost life as normal, except obviously no travel. But then, yeah, just a 50-minute flight away where Dave, our drummer, lives in Melbourne. Like, they were, oh, shit, hang on. Screen turned itself off again. Yeah, he was locked up for the best part of a year there. And, like, Sydney, Australia, they were very similar there as well. And just the toll it took on people was fucking insane. Like, it was like this weird, like, almost like Stockholm syndrome sort of thing. Like, they'd have them locked up for like 2 months straight, and then they'd be like, okay, yep, you guys can go out again. They'd let them out for a week or something like that and just give them just that little bit of freedom, and then, oh no, it's going crazy again. Lock them up. It's like, fuck. Like, I couldn't imagine of having to live like that. I mean, you guys were a little bit like that in the UK for a bit, weren't you?
So I'll tell you my perspective of things here. Yeah, the first lockdown happened, and that was pretty intense. And then we had 2 other lockdowns, which occurred in, I'm going to say, October to, I think, early December 2020 again, but that was very brief. We had this really dumbass tier system, which made no fucking sense.
Yeah, I heard a bit of that. It seemed a bit odd.
Yeah, it was like, it was the stupidest fucking thing ever, you know, like, it's terrifying actually when you realize how stupid human beings can really get. And then witnessing it on such a grandiose scale as that. Yeah. And then we had a third one from, I think, January 2021 until, I think, April. It was April, but then in July they lifted everything, and then it was like back to normal. You're allowed to be free. Yeah. You're allowed to breathe air. It was fucking stupid. But for me personally, the first lockdown when it started, I actually had COVID, and it totally it annihilated me actually at first.
That would have been a hardcore variant as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the fresh out of the Wuhan oven version, actually. So, you know, yeah. It was pretty bad, man. I still have some like lingering effects from that, but you know. So when that happened, and I was left on my own for like 8 weeks, and that was like mentally one of the toughest things ever, because I've always been I've always like said how much I want to be left alone and stuff like that, and I do to an extent still, but
when it's forced upon you, it's different though, right?
Yes, and especially under those circumstances, because you want to be alone, but you want to have freedom of movement. That's what I like. You know, I like being a bit of a, you know, as I'm sure you can probably understand and relate to, you know, with the touring life and stuff. You know, it's good to have that freedom of movement where you might be on your own at times, but you just like moving around. You know, you like going through, you like observing people. But when you're just stuck in a cell, that's fucking terrible. And for me, the first lockdown, I kind of followed things through for a little while. And then slowly, after a month or two, I was kind of like, this is just not making really sense at all, you know? So by the second or third, I did whatever I wanted to do. You know, I went traveling, you know, when the first day, and I never told anyone this, and I don't know if this will even get me in trouble here if I talk about it, but also I don't give a shit considering that the Prime Minister himself was having his own party during the first lockdown. But like on the third lockdown, I think it happened on the 6th of January. and 6th of January 2021, and I had already left my city, you know, and I was doing like a train ride, and I was doing the rounds and seeing people and
catching up.
yeah, definitely catching up, or like just meeting up with people that I'd just been talking online, you know. It was like, okay, I'll come stay at your place now, you know, and then the next day I'd go somewhere else and then spend time with someone. That's how I did it the third lockdown, and I have absolutely no regrets whatsoever, because I came to the realization that I mean, a lot of the illusions of the world kind of fell apart in front of me, and I think it did for a lot of us, actually. And it's kind of like it's your well-being is just completely your own responsibility. And to me, I saw it as my mental health is my responsibility. I need to hang out with people I like in order to feel better and in order to feel functional. So I'm going to keep doing that regardless of what you're going to tell me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for us down here, we didn't even experience COVID really until January this year, 2022.
Oh,
there was like a few cases here right in the beginning, but like I say, with the whole being an island thing, they got it under control real fucking quick, and then we didn't have it. And like it was weird. I remember when they first opened Tasmania up, because like everything, they were trying to, you know, bring back normality to the country, and the part of that was, all right, well, we got to open Tasmania up to tourism and let people in, let people out and stuff like that. And you should have seen how, like, we had shows booked, Psycroptic shows booked, one in Hobart, which is the city we live in, which is southern Tasmania, and then northern Tasmania, Launceston, we had a show booked as well. And both shows were pretty much sold out on pre-sale. They opened the island up, I think it was like 3 days before, and all the locals just shit themselves, and they were like fucking locked themselves indoors voluntarily. And so we played those two shows. The first show, I think there was like 100 and something tickets sold, and there was like maybe 30 people showed up.
Wow.
The second show, I think there was like close to 200 sold, and then I think there was like 40 showed up. I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Whereas we were just like, oh, fuck it, you know, we got to learn to live with this shit. I mean, I had COVID twice now.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was bad, but I didn't get the crazy one that you did.
Yeah, mine was the fresh one.
I got the easy one, the light version.
No, but the thing is as well, I had it again. I've had it 2 other times, at least that I know of, because by the third time I didn't even know I had it. And I never had any of the jabs or anything like that. I just didn't think I needed it after having had the first one, you know. And it's fine, you know, if a lot of my friends have had it, I'm like, fine, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, do what works for you. I don't have a... Yeah, because the thing is as well, when the ruling forces turn around and tell you that you should do something and this is the right thing and you're doing a good work, of course people are going to listen to that, you know. And it's like, I can't spend my whole life being mad at people for listening to that when they're just being lied to, you know what I mean? That's my mindset. I can't be mad at those people.
And like my whole thing with it, and you see it, like, it's such a political thing, whether you're vaccinated or you're not nowadays, or whether you wear a mask, whether you don't, and all that stuff. You think, who gives a fuck, you know? Yeah. Like, I mean, I'm vaccinated. You're not. I don't care that you're not. You don't care that I am, and it's just like,
exactly.
I don't see how like, it's so fucking weird how something as simple as that has divided so many fucking people these days. It's just crazy to see. It's like, like, I don't, just the way people are just splitting down the middle now. It's fucking insane. You have to pick a side almost, I reckon.
You have to see, the problem with the world nowadays is that you have to pick a side on everything. And I think that this might be a system that's just I'm pretty sure, actually, that this is a system that's in place just for the sake of more control. Because if you keep people divided, it's so much easier to control them. It's easier to also wholesale the sort of content and the advertising that you got to sell to them as well. You know, like one group always gets triggered and reacts to one certain thing, and then the other does the same to another thing. You know, and it's just easier to keep them in these boxes. I mean, just even like the whole red and blue situation in America, I think is so fucking dumb. Is so stupid. It makes no sense whatsoever.
And it's like, and you see so much of it. It's like just targeted through fucking Facebook and things like that. You know, depending on where you live is what you're fed and all that shit. And I think fucking getting off majority of social media, I think was the best thing I ever fucking did. Like it's funny when I go on tour, because the other guys in the band and stuff, they sort of keep up to date more than I do with what's going on in the world. Now, I learn what's happening in the world when I go on tour or when I hang out with them, because I just don't fucking keep up with it normally anymore. Got rid of Facebook about 7 years ago. I'm like, fucking life has been so much better since. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I can imagine, man. I mean,
I got Instagram.
Yeah, you got Instagram for your artwork and stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, that's pretty much it with that. And it's like, I don't know. I'm not one that needs to put up pictures of my life and what the fuck I do day to day with, you know, the greater population. Fuck that. The people I give a fuck about, I'll call, I'll talk to, I'll catch up with, I'll hang out. I'll message him personally. I think, fuck, that's a much better way for me.
No, I agree. Yeah, because the other thing is, well, that is really important for a lot of people to realize is that, I mean, you can be on social media, but it is very important in how you choose to use it as well. And
I think so.
Yeah, one very important thing that I've learned, you know, because, you know, I have a lot of interests in spiritual aspects of life as well. And, you know, that's a very big thing for me. But one of the biggest realizations that I've had is that privacy is protection. And you need to protect certain parts of your life. And especially, I think, in the position of yourself, if you've got a wife and kids, that's something that might be your everyday life, but you might very rarely share that with the rest of the world. And I think that's a good thing, because you're protected by not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, see, I used to see it where when I did have Facebook, I'd put up pictures of like, say, me, my wife and kids at a park or something like that. And then there'd be like Psycroptic fans fucking commenting on there and stuff. And it's like they get to learn your kids' names and stuff. Like, this is just fucking weird, you know?
Yeah.
And like, my wife would be like, I've got friend requests from, you know, all these guys. Who the fuck are they? I checked out their profile and they're metalheads. I'm like, my wife's not into metal at all. And it's just like, it's a bit fucking odd, you know. And it's like,
that's funny.
It's called private life for a reason, you know.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's funny you say that. The amount of times I get that from my partner, or even in the past, you know, it's like, who's this person who just added me, you know? And I look, and then it's some like crazy guy from Iran wearing a dark funeral shirt, and I'm like, oh, just don't accept.
Exactly.
They probably know me, but no. But the thing is, as well, a lot of times those people might mean very well, you know. It's not always a negative thing, but I think that when you put something out there on social media, and this is a very important thing, I think, for a lot of people to probably keep in mind, especially younger people or people in relationships, whatever it is, a lot of times some things are just best to be kept to yourself. And this is especially the case, you know. So when I say privacy is protection, let's look at it like this. And it might seem a little bit into the metaphysical, but I do really believe this because I've experienced it firsthand. Let's say, for example, you're with your wife or girlfriend, whatever, and then you guys got a really nice picture together. You've had a lovely time, and then you post this online, right? You never know that what the other people who will then see that picture are going through. And what I mean is, someone could be having a terrible day, like 100 people could see that picture, but one out of those 100 people might be having a terrible day. They might be having a really shitty time. And then when they see your picture and they see you happy and enjoying your life, they resent you and they say, oh, fuck that person. Why did they get to have that? Yeah. Right? And I think that there's actually a way to these things, to the point that I remember, with an ex of mine years ago, I would post pictures, and then I was like having the happiest moments, and I would post pictures, and then literally half an hour later, her and I would get into a random argument, and I would always be like, what the fuck is this? And then I noticed the pattern that almost like happened every time. And I was like, okay, so there's gotta be some kind of a jealous energy, something, because in Iran, we have this very big belief, it's very superstitious, but we believe in evil eyes and things like that. And people actually looking at you. And that's why I think it's actually really important that sometimes if something is really making you happy, maybe just keep that to yourself. Maybe just be happy about it in private between you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that. That's like a lot of people always talk about, like superstition and people's ideas with the spirituality and stuff like that. And you get so many people like, it's a load of shit or whatever. But it's like all countries, all cultures from all over the world, from all periods of history, have had thoughts on that sort of stuff. So it's like, how the fuck do people just dismiss it?
Sure. Yeah. Very, very valid point. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I think that it's one of them things where, even if it's not from the perspective of an evil eye, even just from the perspective that you could be making someone else feel like shit. Now you could say, well, I don't really care, whatever, fuck them. But I think it's one of the terrible things about social media, and I've given this a lot of thought more recently, is the worst thing that it does is you've got someone who's living their life and they're doing okay, and they're trying hard, they're still bringing food to the table and things like that. And they'll go online and they'll see someone else doing so much better than they are. And it just makes them feel worthless. And I think that's terrible. That's a fucking terrible thing.
And the thing with it is, it's just it's a snapshot of someone's day. Yeah. Half the time it's not even fucking real. It's state. You look at all these fucking, like what they call them, influencers and stuff these days. And it's like, they probably weren't living that fucking day. They've just staged that. They've got a really nice photo of it, and they've just gone and lived their fucking usual miserable existence, or or whatever, just regular life, like what most people do. And it's just like, you're presenting this like fucking golden life that you're living that probably isn't even real, and you are making people just feel like shit about what they're doing because they're not taking private jets around the world, or eating fucking $5,000 steaks and stuff like that. It's like, it's not half shit with social media. I don't think it's fucking real anyway. So like you say, it's just making people feel like shit, or feeling like they're not achieving, or like they should be achieving more with their lives and stuff like that, which I think is just fucking shit house.
You have to think that obviously a lot of times you post things on social media because you want the likes for it. But what are the reasons for those likes? Every time a person clicks that heart button on the screen, what are they thinking? Is that because they actually care about you, or is that because what you're presenting to them, they want that for themselves? And I think this can also be the case for, and this is not to even necessarily judge as much. I have my ideas about it, but even in the case of like a lot of like OnlyFans models and girls, when they post something online, those people don't care. They just want what they're seeing in the picture, and I think that doesn't always, if not very rarely, I think actually aligns with what the author actually wants, I think. And it's the same as like many other people. You know, if you post yourself with a nice car online that you just bought, you know, and it's super expensive, people who like it don't like it because you have the car. They like it because they want the car.
They wish it was theirs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Do you want to attract that kind of energy all the time? You know?
Nah. That's it. You're just making people envy what you have, and it's just, I don't know. Yeah. I'd rather live a more humble life. More fulfilling, you know.
Yeah,
and that was a lot of why I just got away from it to begin with. You know, you're just saying all this just shit from other people, and you think, fuck, I don't even care anymore. You know?
Yeah, man.
Then so I gave up Facebook, but then I got Instagram as a way to sell my art and then follow artists on that. And then I'm starting to find now that even on Instagrams, like the fucking advertising and bullshit you get on that as well. Like,
oh yeah, all the reels and shit as well that pop up.
Yeah, it's fucking insane. I think, fuck, you know, I'm nearly at the point where I'm going to give up on that one as well. Like, try to sell the art on there, but I probably won't bother following much anymore. It's insanity. Everything,
man.
Like, you know, it's like everything's just an advertising platform these days. It's just everywhere you turn that, you know, something's trying to get sold to you every time you look at the internet or your phone or something. It's just like, fucking buy this, buy that, sign up here for this. Like, fucking hell. It's just overwhelming.
It is. It's like a sensory overload completely. You know, I mean, you're not even supposed to, I think, take in that much information from different places, but we are all doing that on a day-to-day basis. You know, that's why it's important to have some break from it as well, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it just can't be fucking avoided. And I mean, I'm getting to the point now where, like, I know, like, running a business and stuff like that, I need to stay connected with the phone and stuff, but it's just like, I just got to have times where the phone's just put on silent, left in the fucking bedroom, you know, just out of earshot, where you just got to just totally try to disconnect, I think, you know, for certain periods of time. And I think that's what I love about, that's I think what a lot of the lure with me when I started getting back into long distance running and stuff. It was just that, you know, I'd go out on bush trails and, you know, you wouldn't see anybody. You've got, you know, you're just on your own, and it's just that whole primal thing, just fucking one foot after the other. And it was almost like meditation for me. You totally zoned out of the loop with everything, and it was just fucking great.
Yeah, man. Well, one thing that I've always really appreciated about you is how you have always, throughout the years, you've always found a way to reinvent yourself. Now, this can be applied to just say even like your vocal style throughout the various different records, which is definitely like it's even in the last like 3 records, you know, you can still notice a difference, you know, and that's like, like how many years into the career. And it's the same for, dare I say, even appearance. I think you've changed appearance quite a lot as well. I think there was a while where you had like just like a buzz cut. There was another time where you had short hair, but then you had this really long thing at the back. They used to like do windmills. Like, there's all these things that you've been through. But one thing that I like, which I have noticed at least, is the ways in which you've tried to make this sort of lifestyle and art format sustainable. So obviously at the moment, I believe that a lot of your focus is also going towards doing designs, right? As you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, definitely. I have slowed down on artwork and stuff like that over probably the last couple of months, only because I've been like, I've put so much focus back on writing music again. Like, I've got back on the guitar over the last few years. So I've got a project, or I've got numerous projects now where I play guitar. So that's been taking up a lot of my time recently. I've been trying to fit some art and stuff in, but to me, like, just a massive part of my life is staying creative really regularly, whether it be drawing, whether it be writing lyrics, performing vocals, or also playing guitar as well. So I think, so I mean, basically, to me, it doesn't matter which one I'm working on, as long as I'm constantly creating something. I think I'm getting it helps me keep fulfilled with life.
Sure, man. I think that's great. I've seen some of your artworks as well. They're really cool, dark stuff, actually. Which, I liked seeing that. And the reason why I also bring this up, I mean, obviously, just from the mindset perspective of always like keeping on top of these things, and I like that and appreciate that a lot, and obviously in reinventing yourself. But specifically on the topic of graphic designs and things like that, when I was looking through your artwork, one thing that popped in my head was the recent, I guess, trend or uprising in AI-generated artwork. Yeah, and I actually had a brief conversation with Alan Averill from Primordial about the whole AI thing online yesterday. And because I know he posted some stuff about it on his podcast. What are your thoughts on this whole AI thing coming in when it comes to artwork and design, when that's essentially something that you're actually at least making some business out of at the moment?
Yeah. Well, I spoke with Dave, our drummer, about this when we were on tour, actually. Personally, I fucking hate it.
Sure.
To me, you look at, I mean, visually, it's good, but it's kind of, to me, it feels like it's just soulless. Like you look at art, and it's got a style of the person who's done it, the emotions or whatever they invoke when they're doing it. You look at all this AI stuff, you can pick it straight away. It's got to that point where that software, Mid-Journey or whatever it's called, it's got to the point where I think it's got its own style, and you can always pick it. It basically all looks the same, and the fact that people don't even have to think about what they're doing anymore to create artwork. They've just got to punch a few words in and that's it. And they've got some, amazing piece that they can use for an album cover or this or that. And you think, it's just got no soul to it anymore. And I've noticed through like looking on Instagram and stuff like that, it's almost like a lot of, concept artists and stuff like that. It's almost like it's just put them off because they're kind of like, fucking anyone can just do this shit now without, having to have dedicated fucking years of their life to it, and putting effort into it and practicing and all that side of things. And I think it's fucking shit personally. I haven't fucked with any of it, and that's the reason why. But I must admit too, when I first did see it all coming out, I had thought that a lot more people were going. Like as soon as I saw, it was of a high quality. My first thought was, you're going to see this on every underground band's album cover. Mm-hmm. But haven't seen too much of it yet, and I'm hoping we don't, because I hope within the metal community maybe they like to keep things a bit more real and keep that human element to it, but who knows?
I think a lot of it comes down to just the fact of, purely speaking on the album cover side of things, I think it comes down to the fact of, well, why should I go and pay this amount of money to a designer when I can just get this for free by punching in a few keys and then it's mine? And the thing is as well, I think that's a really shitty way of thinking, first of all. Like, I understand it, but it's not right because, first of all, is that the value you have for your own music, that you see it so cheap that you think it's not worth someone actually writing and designing something for it? You know, and there are people like that out there, you know, but they just don't care, you know. It's like, yeah, whatever, you know, I'll just put some riffs together. There's no meaning. I'm just like adding to the traffic of the online existence of music, and it's just, I think it's fucking and I think that's a very weak-minded way of approaching things. But it concerns me because, to your point, you've got people who've dedicated all this time to honing their craft, getting better at something, improving their skills, and getting good at something that's difficult. And obviously, you don't have to, but a lot of times we want to turn something that we're good at into at least some form of financial profit, you know, even if it's just to like break even on the costs, you know. I mean, like, for example, for me, doing this podcast costs me more money than I don't make anything from it at all, you know, but this costs me to do it. But I like to do it because I enjoy it, you know, and I get to have cool conversations with people that I respect. But the thing is, like, with
that's it.
But the thing is that now you're giving that tool to people who have zero skill, and you're basically giving them the option to compete, I should say, with
people that do have a lot of skill.
Exactly, you know, and I think that the tricky part about it is that, I mean, it's the same with, this is the thing I was speaking to Alan about, is that you've now also got AI that writes music, and that's fucking, like, I knew that would come. Like, as soon as the AI artwork thing came, I was like,
it was only a matter of time.
It's a matter of time, exactly. And that terrifies me because already there's this weird fucking perception of music, you know, where you've got, I mean, I said that I can see how, like, DJ sets are sort of one of the steps which have come towards this whole AI thing, you know. It's that you're taking away the instruments, and then you're just like, you've got these things that you can play with. Again, there's still a human element there, of course. Is the argument I was making, but at the same time, that's it
doesn't take a lifetime to learn.
Yeah, and there's already this mainstream idea of you know, that's just the same thing. Whereas for us who have, like, dedicated our lives to actually performing music for real, you know, especially when you've got talented musicians like the people in your band who've gone and done all the hard work, the mainstream perspective will almost be, even sadly enough, will almost be more likely to call something like I don't know, like David Guetta or something. That's real music, and then, like, our shit isn't, which is bullshit, you know. That can fuck off. But it's kind of like now with the AI thing in the picture, and you can certainly see that pop music is going to go that direction. I think that's
there's no doubt
thing for arts, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the thing, and this was my sort of thing when the whole AI art came out. It's just like, you're taking art away from people. It takes the human element out of it, and to me, it's kind of a fucking scary thing. And then you take music, you take the human element out of it. It's like, how much can you automate what a human is useful for? It's like, where the fuck does that end? And it gets to the point, what's the use of us? Like, what purpose do we serve here? You know what I mean? It's like, where the fuck does it stop?
Yeah, I think it's a terrifying thing, because I think that the fact that it's now made its way to art is also just, I think it's a side effect of the greater changing things as well, which is fucking terrifying. That doesn't make it for the better at all. No, but art is a crucial part of our existence, because now you're thinking that, you know, if you take away art and give the job of the artist to a computer machine, you are taking away one of the most fundamental tools of expression from human beings, period. You know, I mean, there's this
any time in history, like
exactly.
Back to cave paintings from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Anything
cave paintings, that's right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it goes back to the fucking dawn of time, you know.
Yeah, it does. And
yeah, but now you're going to entrust it to a fucking little device. It's like, fuck, it's just insane.
It's weird. It's like, even though we're evolving, it somehow feels like we're going backwards. That's how it feels.
Backwards, yeah. I always say the same thing. It's just like technology, I think, is the most fucking scary thing out there, because it's like, I look at when I was a kid, and like there used to be a show here, like that was called Beyond 2000. And that was a show that we used to watch back in the 90s when I was a kid. And there'd be all this insane tech showing on there. And majority of it, you'd look at it and you think, there's no fucking way that's ever going to be real or going to take off. But now it's like, you know, you hear about some concept of some fucking insane piece of technology and you think, oh yeah, that's probably only about 6 months away now, because it's just it's like anything anyone can think of nowadays. Someone figures out how to fucking build it within like months. Like I remember hearing when they were talking about bringing in touch screens and stuff, and I was thinking, how the fuck is that going to be possible? You know, that concept just seemed fucking insane to me. But now it's just like, it's everywhere.
Yeah. There's a real anxiety that I feel, which I think we kind of share that when it comes to something like this. And it's not because I'm afraid of evolving. Fuck no. I'm super interested in like, oh, what can we do? You know, or can we maybe discover more about underwater? Can we maybe see a bit more of space? Is there something else? You know, these things I'm super fascinated in. But what terrifies me is, at least based on my own experiences, I've had some very weird interactions with technology, you know, particularly in connection with sleep and mobile phones, things like that.
Yeah.
That's a very minuscule thing, you know. So I'll explain quickly what I actually mean by that is, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, I feel, but I basically went through a period of time back in 2015 where I would sleep with my phone next to my head, and I also used to have the lights on at night as well. I somehow used to sleep with the lights on. I don't know how the fuck I did it, but I did that.
I could never do that.
No, I could never do that now. I don't know how I did this, but anyway, that's kind of how I used to go to sleep at that time. And there was a few times where I would fall asleep and my phone would be like fully charged. And then within an hour, I would have these weird dreams where I felt like the waves in my head were messing with the phone. And then I would wake up and the phone's battery was drained completely. And this happened, I think, about a dozen times that year. And I started having my phone on flight mode. And guess what?
Yeah.
It stopped happening.
Didn't go flat. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, there's so many electro waves and all sorts of shit flying around these days. It's just like,
but that's what we are as well. We've got these. That's what we are. We're these electromagnetic fields. Every human being. So what if you've got a, you know? So even like this is where it gets really scary for me. Is, let's say even if you die as a person, then there's something that's, I guess, kind of left behind, maybe. And then what if these computer systems, you know, like I know because China just made like the largest fucking insane like computer system ever made, just I think about a year ago or something it came out. And I look at something like that and I go, you know, like if you like what if you die, but then like your consciousness, I don't know, gets kind of trapped by something like this, or like your energetic field gets trapped by something like this? Or what if that you die and you just want to be left dead, but then you end up getting manipulated by these computer systems that have access to these magnetic fucking things? And that is the greatest anxiety I think I have, actually. Yeah.
That's the thing. I like fucking the way technology's moving. It's like that sort of thing might be as far away as what people might think, and that's the crazy thing about it.
No,
it's like you look at what we've achieved over the last few years. And it's just like fucking scary.
It is. And what worries me is that I feel like technology is too removed from certain other things. Like, for example, I think that it's too removed now from people who, say, partake in psychedelics or spirituality. The fact that science is so removed from spirituality actually worries me, because a lot of people see the two as separate things. Like there's pseudoscience, there's this and that. To me, it's all the same thing. It's just a part of our understanding of the world, But when you've got something so powerful as the modern science, and that's completely removed from, I guess, and I'm not even so much pointing to the ethics of it, although that's certainly a factor. I think it's just it's more the directions which we're taking with it. Like, well, why are we doing this? Why are we going that way? And unfortunately, the part where it worries me is that it comes down to a point of, in the end, this technology is used to control and to rule people and to manipulate people's thoughts, rather than anything that's, say, for example, good for the environment. Like, let's say if we can listen to something that's good for us, it's none of that, unfortunately.
And that's the thing, that the things that we can achieve with technology for, like you say, and for making money and stuff like that. And it's like, why are we having all these environmental issues? Like, it's like, why can't people focus some of that energy with it on something that is good for everybody, rather than just making money, controlling the population and all the rest of it, greed and power and stuff? It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but unfortunately, I think that's kind of where we're headed, and that there seems to be definitely, without getting conspiratorial, which I don't even think it is that anymore, there definitely seems to be an agenda for a global government. That seems to be where we're headed.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people thought when COVID was a real thing that's where things were sort of going to push, because you had all the governments like following suit with each other and the ways they were controlling and all the rest of it. It was pretty crazy to see, but obviously things died off a bit, but you don't know what's going on in the back burner and stuff now.
No,
especially
exactly.
with all the crazy shit that's going on around the world.
Yeah, but it feels like the crazy shit has always been happening, but it does feel like it's like the one step crazier than usual now.
Yeah, and I guess now it's probably at the forefront a lot more. It's because of, I suppose, the way people do share information around and video gets shared around and all the rest of it. People are, I suppose, paying a bit more attention to it now, maybe, as well.
What concerns me, though, what concerns me is that information is easier than ever to be shared, whether it's through mobile phones and whatnot. But I believe, because I've seen this with my own eyes, that it's also the easiest time to probably manipulate that information as well.
That's like I can't think of what the show was. It was a doco where they were talking about social media, and it was talking about how, depending on people's interests, it's like targeting the information at certain people and basically showing how they could like twist people's, like a group of people's views on a certain topic and stuff. And you fucking know, that's pretty scary.
Yeah, well, if you've got, for example, with Meta and Facebook, where you've got certain things that you just cannot talk about, then obviously you might be trying to share that information, but if certain information is automatically filtered out, then whatever else is left on there, that's, I guess, a part of the agenda that people can easily access to. And if most people are seeing that, if most people are plugged in, which they are, they're automatically going to think what's left there, you know. So that's that. Even then, that's not the whole truth. This is what I'm saying, where it's very easy to manipulate that information. You know, I mean, I'll make an example as well. Back in January last year, so almost 2 years ago now, my band did this live stream thing, and we basically... it was actually a very cool thing. You know, I would have never liked to have done a live stream, you know, and I always felt funny about it. But this was a case where it worked, because especially the fact that we were in the middle of like the third lockdown, and people weren't going to be seeing any shows for a while, you know, and they hadn't seen any shows.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was really good because it brought all of us together. But one of the things with it was... we were raising money for the grassroots venues in the UK, you know, because especially like for me as an Iranian who's come over to the UK, I can recognize that this is a very extremely important part of the culture here that I think is healthy for people, and it's sad to me when I see that their own government doesn't take it seriously sometimes. I would rather just break down these flats and build flats, break down these venues and just build flats instead. You know, that makes me sad, and I think that the people here in the UK should really protect that culture that they have. So for me, I think that...
what happened there?
I think it was just my internet. I'm going to quickly just carry on from where I was. The thing which I was saying was that what concerns me is that when, as an Iranian person who's come to the UK, I know, and not having had these freedoms of expression back in Iran, it really concerns me when I see that the government over here doesn't protect this culture as well as I think it should, and would rather just break down these venues, these grassroots venues, and just turn them into flats, when it's actually, I think, a very crucial part of the culture here, and it's one of the, as I said earlier, fundamental ways of expression for people, and I think people should really protect that. And this is why when we were doing that stream, we were trying to basically raise some money and donate money to these venues, and we actually did all right too, you know. And I linked it to several different venues in the UK, one in London, one in York, and the one that we were performing at was one in Leeds, which we raised the most amount of funds for. But with the reason why I actually bring this up is because that Facebook actually stopped us from being able to advertise this event. Yeah, and the reason was because you're not allowed to advertise political things. And I thought, political? How on earth is this political? We're saying we want to save grassroots venues. On what fucking planet is this a political thing? And then, you know, and it was just like fucking, and then fucking for us as well. What was it? My personal account actually briefly got suspended because, I mean, I never made a fuss of this publicly, but I was fuming. But I was like, we're trying to help people here. We're trying to help, smaller businesses, and you cunts who have actually supported all of these censorship and everything are now coming over and trying to stop this event, you know, from, you know, like raising charity for, you know, smaller businesses that are actually helping people have some meaning in their lives. It's a fucking, you know, that showed me a lot, to be honest. You know, I mean, you could always say maybe it's a social media glitch, but I don't think it is. I think this is exactly what I'm saying, is that information is so easily manipulated for people. And I think we're at that stage where you should almost like stop trying to rely on any social media forces for this. You know, I mean, I have enough trouble with them as it is, because my band is called Trivax. So the VAX at the end, these motherfuckers, you know, they like flag every one of our posts. I'm like, we've been around since 2009, and we've had the name Trivax since 2010 or 11. It's like we weren't like foreshadowing any of this bullshit, you know. And it's like another thing is as well, a lot of people come up to me and make the joke like, Trivax, I bet you're telling people to make sure they get their triple jabs or whatever. And I'm like, well, first of all, joke's on you. I have had 0, and Biden's already had his 5th. So, you know, don't talk to me. So, you know, but it's just one of them. It's just sad, crazy fucking times, you know. I just feel like we could be doing a lot better. That's all.
Back to your live stream thing. How was that to do? So you guys did it in a venue, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were.
What was it like playing without? Playing without the audience in a venue? It would have been an odd experience, wouldn't it?
It was. Yes, it definitely was. But it wasn't completely devoid, you know, because like with us, I think that definitely when you watch it, it's not the same usual energy as when we're in a room full of people. But
yeah, exactly.
First of all, it helped that we had 3 crew members. So we had one camera person, and we had one sound guy, and we had another person who I think was in charge of he was in charge of sort of the organization, making sure everything went well. It was really fucking stupid, by the way, because there was a one-way system in the venue, and there's like 6 of us in there. So it's like every time we loaded the stage, we had to go one way to go around and then come back in to go on stage. I was just, by the end of it, I was just like, listen, guys, if you don't like me going this way, you can fucking kick me out. I'm not having this. And they were like, no, it's fine. We kind of get it. It's a stupid thing. But, you know, and it's a small venue as well. It's like, what are we doing here? You know, and fucking doing the show itself was interesting because having the 3 people there helped. You know, like you can at least sense that there are eyes on you. If the room was completely empty, then it would have been weird, you know. And I feel like it wasn't our first time. Set there or something. Yeah, you can feel the human presence in there. And I feel like it wasn't our first time playing to 3 people. So
we've all done
it. So in that sense, it wasn't too bad. And actually, you know, for me, I was just looking forward to the excuse almost to get into my stage gear after so long, you know, because
get out there.
Just getting into that same energy, you know. I mean, we had like all the candles and incense on as well on the side, you know, so even though that's for the audience, they won't experience the smell. For us, it was there. So I kind of got into I got into my zone there to find that. The part that I found the most weird was that, and this is probably, I would imagine this would have been the case with you guys if you ever did anything like that, is that I feed off a lot of crowd participation. You know, like to me, it's like every song, if I get the chance, gotta get the motherfuckers chanting, you know, and get them to scream, and you know, like that's I'm a junkie for that. Absolutely, it's like. Yeah, and that was the weirdest part, I think, out of everything about it.
Yeah. See, we had so we didn't do any live stream stuff. We did 3 shows in 2 days in our hometown venue, which it was insane to get that going. Dave came down and had to quarantine for 2 full weeks.
Wow!
To get this 1 weekend of shows. So we were in a 400 cap room, and we were only allowed 150 per show. So we worked out with the venue, okay, well, we're going to have to do 3 shows over 2 days so that it's feasible with all the staffing that we had to have and, everything going on, so that the venue could actually make some money. We could cover our costs and stuff like that. And we're like, all right, we did it, but it turned out we couldn't. Our bass player's from New Jersey, so we were using a session bass player, but with all the permits and shit we had to do to get people onto the island, we couldn't actually get our bass player on here. So we had to have pre-recorded bass. And for us, the whole experience was just weird because it was like the crowd was spaced out and stuff. And it was like, fuck. That was probably the least fun shows I've ever done.
Right.
And after that, because we just couldn't find any sort of rhythm there. Like the whole thing just felt so weird and almost sterile for us, because you could tell people weren't used to being at shows and people were kind of awkward and weird and didn't know what to do. And even with us, we hadn't played a show in 2 years. Me, Dave and Joe hadn't been in the same room together for 2 years, like the band members and stuff. We were allowed to do, I think, 1 hour of practice before the show, which was basically us just catching up, hanging out, saying, how the fuck you been? It's been 2 years since we've seen you, and so that was a weird experience. And that's what, like, after that, we were kind of like, fuck any of this live stream stuff. Let's just wait till it's at full capacity and we can go for it, but yeah, and I heard a lot of mixed reviews from people I spoke to that did live stream things. Some of them were like, it was good just to fucking do something, and others were like, oh, it was weird, no crowd and stuff like that. So it's always interesting to hear what other people's experiences were of it.
Yeah,
I spoke to a few friends who actually had to do seated shows, which they said that was odd. And that was one thing we all agreed on that we were not going to do. It's like a seated show, you might as well be doing a live stream. It's kind of weird because, there's just not that same energy, I don't feel anyway.
I agree, man. I think, you said you did 3 shows in 2 days. So how did that work out?
So it was weird. So on the Friday night we did, I don't think we even had a support band. I think we were just the only band playing from memory. So, maybe there was one other band. So it was 2-band bill. I think the doors were at like 6 and it was no fucking around. It was just get both bands done, short changeovers. They kicked the whole crowd out as soon as we were finished. They let the next crowd in and we played another show straight away. Wow. It was weird. So we hadn't done a show in 2 years, so my voice was fucking dead by the end of it. So it was basically there was enough time for my vocal cords to almost cool down and start recovering. And then I had to go again. And I was just like, my God, this is going to be a fucking terrible idea, but let's go. By the end of the second show, I couldn't barely talk, and here I am thinking, fuck, I've got to play another show tomorrow night. So the show on the second night, I've got this weird thing for me that if I lose my voice, I can still sing, but I can't talk. Like my voice will be, I'll be trying to talk and doing all that weird shit. It just won't work, And so the second show, I'm like freaking out a bit. And I'm like, I know I'll be able to get enough through to sing. But then trying to talk to the audience between songs, I just sounded fucking ridiculous. Right. But I think, everyone gave me enough grace because they knew it was something we hadn't done for a long time, and we'd punched out a lot of shows in a short period of time there. So, but yeah, that was not the ideal way to get back into it. That's for sure.
No, I think that's such a fucked up thing. Like, I can't imagine playing a show and then being like, okay, let's do that again. Like, that just seems so alien to me.
Yeah.
It
was
fucking
hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, I think one very important thing to keep in mind there is, for anyone listening, is the fact that if you hadn't rehearsed for like 2 years, that means that you probably weren't using, I guess, your vocal voice too much, like your singing voice. And that thing, I think it needs... It's like an engine. It needs warming up. I always get this. If it's been for me personally, if it's been a month where we haven't rehearsed or had a show, and if I jump in the rehearsal room, my voice feels fried by the end of it. But then it's almost like it grows back into what it is like after a day or two.
I'm the same. I'm usually like before we do a tour or something, we'll do one rehearsal. And it'll basically just be me breaking my voice back into it, because I'll sound terrible. And, I've been doing it for long enough that experience tells me don't be concerned by this. You sound horrible, but it's only the guys in the band that are hearing it, and they know the drill as well. Do a second rehearsal. Things are feeling pretty good. And then do the show after that and everything's fine, and then you can go for a fucking month straight or something like that. But it's just that, and leading up to doing those shows, I've been doing a lot of singing, but it was all studio stuff, which is totally different again, because you might in a night, you might end up over the course of the night of a studio session, you might be in there for 5-6 hours, but you're only doing short little takes. So you do a verse and then you'll review it and you'll figure out where you went wrong, and then you do it again. So there's a lot of rest in between. It's not like you're just giving it 100% for an hour straight,
Maybe this is why I hate being in the studio. Because I always do. I do full takes, and my voice gets shot so quick during that. I mean, but it's weird. I don't know why that happens. Maybe it's the lack of adrenaline, and having the music right next to you, like you can live it and breathe it, whereas it's just through headphones. I think it's maybe that as well. Yeah, and
that's one thing. It always, when we start tracking vocals for an album, that's the thing I find the hardest, is like settling into the more sterile environment of the studio. I mean, once you get going with it, I usually find I settle into it, but it's nothing the same as live, and just, I don't know, you hear it with like a lot of old school bands where they used to actually just track their albums live, and like a lot of the early black metal bands and stuff. Like they'd be just tracking their album in a room, like all that classic old Norwegian stuff. It'd be in the room and it'd all be tracked live, and you can just hear, a certain magic in the room with it, because it was done as if it was playing a show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Watain did that on their last album. They recorded it all live.
I did hear something about that, and I mean, maybe your sound mightn't be as perfect or whatever as what a lot of people want to hear these days, but I mean, it captures that feeling so much better, I suppose, than what you do with doing it as isolated tracks.
Yeah, I think the thing that I personally struggle with sometimes is I find, I don't know if you get this as well, actually. Do you feel that your timing is almost better on a live show and rehearsal than it is in the studio?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's like you're only just hearing it through headphones, right, aren't you? Whereas if you're like right next to the drummer, you feel the beat, you feel it throughout your entire body, and it's not just it's not just this part of your body trying to project the voice. Yeah.
I mean, we do it. So when we play live, we're all on like in-ear monitors these days, because as we get older and the more we do it, we need to protect our hearing better now. So we're on the in-ear monitors, but the thing we always say, and like our sound guy, he's really good with this as well. We need on the stage, I mean, we could essentially have nothing but drums coming through on the stage, we could hear it all the same in the in-ears, but it feels weird up there. So we always, we've got a big bass amp, we use guitar amps, we use all the monitors on the stage. They're all going, and it's just for that air movement thing, so that you can actually feel the music, not just hear it.
Very cool.
So,
man.
Yeah, and so I mean that's prime example of. I mean, we can't do that when we're in the studio, but we do it live because it makes us perform better. So it's like creating that vibe on the stage, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that's super important, and especially I think if you play smaller venues, then I think you almost need that entirely.
Yeah.
Because it's just, especially if the crowd is closer to you, I think it's good to just have that little bit of booming kind of energy coming off the stage as well.
Yeah, and you can feel it, especially when you get those stages where it's just a big row of subs under the front of the stage, and you just feel it, it's rumbling, and it's like fucking nothing like it,
Yeah, that's a cool experience, man. So just to kind of round things up here as well, what have you got coming up with Psycroptic now?
So next weekend we're playing in Victoria. We're doing festival called Kill Fest. So basically we've just got a couple of spot shows around Australia for the rest of the year, and next year there's a few things sort of in the talks and in the pipeline, but nothing solid as yet.
Sure.
But I think like a big thing, we want to get writing again, really.
Okay, sure. Well, it's not been long since your new one came out, but I guess that was kind of the product of the pandemic, wasn't it? So now it's that was we submitted it to the label a year before it came out. Mm-hmm.
So that album was, by the time it came out, it was already old to us. So we're keen to get into some new stuff. Yeah, but that's the way it's gone with everybody.
Yeah, I feel you, man. It's been the same for us as well, actually. We just released an EP, and we recorded it 3 years ago. And it's actually a part of a full album, which we're not even putting out till like early next year now. But I'll make sure to say
that was one thing I was going to ask you about.
Yeah.
Early next year.
Yeah, early next year. Fingers crossed. If all the fucking production motherfuckers don't let us down, then that should be good.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Yeah. You also just slightly off topic, because you mentioned about the shows you were doing. You also did some shows with Denouncement Pyre, right? Is that correct?
We did some shows. It was us, Golgoth and Remains, Denouncement, Pyre, and Werewolves.
Right. Yeah, I like that band a lot, man. I think
that's
from what's coming from Australia, really cool. Like, I guess
you probably keep hearing about it. You probably keep hearing about it from Jackie, don't you?
No,
he's always about the Aussie stuff.
Yeah. No, I've always had a very soft spot for Australian metal anyway, I think actually you guys are probably the most different sounding band out of the Australian bands that I'm into, but obviously still regarded very highly. But there's a lot of great bands from Australia, obviously. There's Gospel of Horns, Denouncement Pyre, obviously Destroyer 666 originally started there. Just so many fucking great bands, man. It's great stuff coming out of that country for sure.
Oh yeah, Werewolves, the fucking albums those guys are doing are just insane.
Yeah, Werewolves, man. Yeah, very cool, heavy stuff. I like it a lot, man. But yeah,
did you check out? There's one last thing. Band from Melbourne that's just come out called Black Lava. It's
Black Lava.
Yeah, it's like Black Death sort of stuff. It's fucking really good. They just signed a season and miss. So that's a bunch of friends of mine. They're a band that's probably worth checking out. I reckon they'd be up your line. For sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'll check him out, man. I've not heard of the band yet. I mean, the name kind of rings a bell, but you see so much stuff coming past you, online especially. So that one, Black Lava, that's the name of the band.
Yeah, worth checking out. They put out a bunch of film clips only a couple of months, over the last couple of months. So definitely worth checking out. They're going to kick some ass, I reckon.
Absolutely, yeah. I look forward to checking that out, man. I will certainly do that. But yeah, Jason, thank you so much for jumping on, man. It's been
no worries
to talk to you today. Yeah, and I appreciate you probably had a very long day at work or whatever it is you've been doing as well.
Oh,
so
no,
I appreciate
it's
you.
Saturday for me, so I'm all chilling today.
Is it Saturday for you guys?
Yeah. We're in the future.
You're in the future, yeah. I forgot, yeah. No, I guess it's the same for us as well. As you've noticed, I've not got the usual background because we're doing a show in Cardiff tomorrow. So I came and
nice
here like a couple of days early, So I brought my gear with me because I knew we were going to have this conversation. I've been really looking forward to it. So yeah,
awesome.
Man. Yeah, thank you so much for jumping on, man. And
thank you. Until next time.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Absolutely, brother. Until next time. And to everyone who's listened so far as well, thank you for sticking with us. Be sure to check out Psycroptic's new record, Divine Council, and new-ish record now, as you kind of say.
Yeah.
But be sure to get your hands on that. And also, you can also support Jason's art and the designer stuff that he's doing on Instagram, which I'll also link in the description of the episode as well. So thank you all very much for listening to another episode of Iblis Manifestations. See you guys on the next episode. Cheers.